The call had come in just 22 minutes ago, a single crackled communication that ripped through the calm of Agent Albert King's morning. A boy, just 12 years old, had been snatched from a quiet street in Frankfurt. His name was Leo, the son of a prominent scientist. The kidnappers were professionals, leaving behind nothing but the scent of fear and burnt rubber. Now they were on the move, heading north. Their destination was Cologne, where a private jet waited to spirit the boy away forever. King had one chance, a sliver of time, to stop them. He gripped the steering wheel of the Lamborghini Aventador, its V12 engine a low, guttural growl that promised violence. The car was a confiscated asset, a scarlet weapon loaned to him for missions just like this one. King slammed his foot on the accelerator. The Lamborghini lurched forward, a red streak against the grey backdrop of the city. He wasn't just driving, he was launching himself into the unknown. Every second that ticked by felt like a hammer blow against his chest. The boy, Leo, was a ghost in his mind, a face he had only seen in a grainy photograph moments before leaving. Innocent, frightened. King's mission was simple, but the execution was anything but. He had to intercept a stolen Porsche 918 Spider, one of the fastest production cars ever made, on the legendary German Autobahn. It was a duel of hypercars, a battle of horsepower and nerve, with a young life hanging precariously in the balance. The streets of Frankfurt blurred into a kaleidoscope of colour and light. Pedestrians turned their heads, their expressions a mixture of awe and alarm, as the low-slung supercars screamed past. King's focus, however, was absolute. His knuckles were white on the leather-wrapped wheel, his eyes scanning the road, the traffic, the signs flashing past. He felt the familiar knot of controlled anxiety tighten in his stomach. It was a feeling he knew well, the razor's edge between adrenaline and dread. He was a hunter, and his prey was pulling further away with every passing moment. The city's edge was approaching, and with it, the gateway to the no-speed limit expanse of the Autobahn. He had to trust his training, his instincts, and the sheer, brutal power of the machine beneath him. The intelligence report had been chillingly brief. The kidnappers were armed and considered extremely dangerous. They had shown a ruthless efficiency in their operation, which meant they wouldn't hesitate to eliminate any loose ends, including a 12-year-old boy who had seen their faces. King pushed the thought away, channeling his anger into pure, cold determination. He was not just an agent on a mission, he was the only hope Leo had. The red blur of the Lamborghini was a promise, a fast-approaching storm that the kidnappers did not yet see coming. Miles ahead, nestled in the carbon fiber cockpit of the Porsche 918 Spider, Leo sat in terrified silence. The world outside was a green and grey smear, a dizzying rush of speed that made his stomach churn. The man driving was a silhouette with a cruel voice, his hands expertly guiding the silver supercar through traffic. In the passenger seat, another man watched the road behind them, his face a mask of cold indifference. They hadn't spoken to Leo since bundling him into the car, their silence more menacing than any threat. Leo could feel the raw power of the Porsche vibrating through his seat, a constant, terrifying hum that seemed to echo the frantic beating of his own heart. The car was a cage, a beautiful, impossibly fast cage. Leo stared at his own reflection in the tinted window, his eyes wide with a fear he was trying desperately to contain. He thought of his parents, of his bedroom with its posters of spaceships and distant galaxies. It all felt like a different lifetime now. He was only 12, but he understood the gravity of his situation. These were not common criminals. They moved with a purpose that chilled him to the bone. The driver glanced at the dashboard, a flicker of a smile playing on his lips as he saw the speedometer climb. For him, this was a game, a display of power. For Leo, it was a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. He remembered the moment it happened. He was walking home from his music lesson, his violin case in hand. A car had pulled up, the silver Porsche gleaming under the afternoon sun. He had stopped to admire it just for a second. That second was all they needed. A door opened, a hand grabbed his arm, and the world dissolved into a flurry of motion and a sharp chemical smell from a cloth pressed over his face. When he woke up, he was here, trapped inside a missile on wheels, hurtling towards an unknown fate. Hope was a tiny, flickering candle in the storm of his fear, and it was threatening to be extinguished with every kilometer they covered. The kidnappers believed they were safe. They had planned everything meticulously. The stolen car was untraceable, their route was clear, and their asset was secure. They were ghosts, slipping through the country's arteries undetected. They didn't know about Agent King. They didn't know about the crimson predator that was closing the distance behind them, its engine roaring with a promise of retribution. As the Porsche ate up the road, its occupants were cocooned in a bubble of arrogance, completely unaware that the hunter had been unleashed and was now relentlessly tracking their scent. The Lamborghini hit the Autobahn like a thunderclap. King pushed the gear selector and the engine shrieked in response, pinning him to his seat. The speedometer needle swept clockwise with frightening speed. 200, 250, 300 kilometers per hour. The world outside became a tunnel of streaking lines. Other cars seemed to be standing still, their drivers and passengers turning into frozen figures as he rocketed past. King's eyes were locked on the horizon, scanning for the distinctive, low-slung shape of a silver Porsche 918. He was a missile guided by sheer will, every fiber of his being focused on a single objective. The distance between Frankfurt and Cologne was shrinking fast, but was it shrinking fast enough? His mind was a high-speed calculator, processing information at an incredible rate. He analyzed traffic patterns, anticipated the movements of slower vehicles, and chose his path with surgical precision. A slight twitch of the steering wheel at these speeds could be catastrophic, but King was in his element. The car felt like an extension of his own body, a fusion of man and machine forged in the heat of the chase. He felt a surge of grim satisfaction as he weaved through the sparse traffic. He was gaining on them. He could feel it in his gut. The Porsche was fast, but its drivers were constrained by the need to remain inconspicuous. King had no such limitations. He spotted them, a silver glint, miles ahead, moving with an unnatural swiftness that set it apart from everything else on the road. It was the 918. Adrenaline flooded his system, sharp and electric. He eased the Lamborghini into the slipstream of a large truck, momentarily hiding his approach. He needed the element of surprise. A direct, blatant pursuit might spook them. They might do something reckless, something that could endanger the boy. He had to be smart. This wasn't just about speed, it was about strategy. He was a wolf stalking its prey, using the terrain to his advantage before closing in for the final attack. The gap was closing. He could now make out the distinct quad exhausts and the wide rear wing of the Spider. He was just a few hundred meters behind them. The kidnappers were still oblivious, confident in their escape. King's heart pounded a steady, powerful rhythm against his ribs. The moment of confrontation was near. He flicked a switch on the console, activating a secure communication line to his headquarters. "Target acquired," he said, his voice calm and steady despite the chaos of speed surrounding him. "Moving to intercept. Advise local units to stand by." The game was about to change. King pulled the Lamborghini out from behind the truck, revealing himself. The red supercar filled the Porsche's rearview mirror like a sudden splash of blood. He saw the silver car swerve slightly, a clear sign of panic. The chase was on. The Porsche's driver stomped on the accelerator, unleashing the full hybrid power of the 918. It surged forward, trying to pull away, but King was ready. He matched its acceleration, the two hypercars now engaged in a deadly dance at over 320 kilometers per hour. They sliced through the air, two blurs of color and noise, a private war on a public highway. King knew he couldn't simply ram them. The risk to Leo was too great. He needed to force them off the road. An exit ramp was approaching, leading to a quieter, more industrial area. It was his only chance. King expertly maneuvered the Lamborghini alongside the Porsche, the two cars separated by mere inches. He could see the face of the driver now, contorted in a snarl of anger and surprise. He met the man's gaze for a split second, a silent challenge passing between them. Then, with a calculated nudge, King tapped the rear quarter panel of the Porsche. It was a gentle touch, but at this velocity, it was enough to unsettle the car's balance, forcing the driver to fight for control. The Porsche fishtailed wildly, its tires screaming in protest. The driver, panicked and outmaneuvered, had no choice but to wrench the wheel towards the exit ramp to avoid a catastrophic spin-out. King followed, his Lamborghini sticking to the Porsche like a shadow. They screeched down the ramp and into a deserted industrial park filled with warehouses and empty lots. The Porsche skidded to a halt, crashing into a chain-link fence. King blocked the exit, the Lamborghini's engine rumbling like a caged beast. The doors of the Porsche flew open, the two kidnappers emerging with weapons drawn. But King was already out of his car, his own sidearm leveled and steady. "It's over!" King yelled, his voice cutting through the sudden silence. "Let the boy go!" A tense standoff ensued, lasting only a few heart-stopping seconds. before the wail of approaching sirens filled the air. Outnumbered and outplayed, the kidnappers threw down their weapons. As officers swarmed the scene, King walked to the passenger side of the Porsche and opened the door. Leo looked up at him, his eyes wide, a single tear tracing a path through the grime on his cheek. King offered a small, reassuring smile. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe now." Relief washed over King, a powerful wave that extinguished the fire of the chase, leaving behind only the quiet satisfaction of a life saved. The mission was complete,